You're listening to Ernestly Speaking, the only weekly podcast that covers friends, foes, and anything that goes. And now, for your badass host, Ernest Owens. And we're back with another episode of Ernestly Speaking with your host, Ernest Owens, myself. Greetings from Chicago. Yes, I am currently in Chicago, and I am recording this episode of Ernestly Speaking because I am not physically in Philly. I will be gone for the next couple of days. Just a nice romantic getaway. Really, the week as the week before the election. I think this is going to be a tradition we're going to try to do. Maybe at least with presidential races. But like, as you all know, Mr. Johnson surprised me with a romantic anniversary celebration / birthday gift in the Windy City, which has become a return to home very frequently. Like, it's interesting. So for those who are new to the podcast, welcome. But, you know, I was born in Chicago and grew up most of my life in Houston, Texas. But lately, I feel like this is the third time I've been to Chicago within a year. I went last year for my book tour. I went earlier this year for my fraternity's constitutional convention, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. And this time around, I guess it's been like maybe two months later, here I am back again for this lovely trip. And I must say, every time I've been to Chicago, I have been to some of the best restaurants each time. So when I first went last year, I told you all about Daisy's, which was this phenomenal restaurant that is hot. I mean, Daisy's is a great restaurant and has been nationally acclaimed by food critics across the country. New York Times gave it a shout out. It's been on the Eater Essential Restaurants list right now. It's hot. Also, Virtue. I went to Virtue last time I was in Chicago, and we went again this weekend. We went to dinner Sunday night at Virtue, and I mean, chef's kiss. I mean, it's just stellar. It's an incredible restaurant beyond reason. It was the best restaurant experience I had at that time in 2024 thus far. Later this trip, we're going to go to Avec, we're going to go like Monday night. So if you listen to this podcast and you're wondering what I call the Core 200, then you're listening to this Monday morning, early Monday morning. And so you're hearing me talk to you about this from a perspective of everything up until Sunday night for the most part. But if you're listening to this much after, then, here we are. So I will tell you all about my experience at AVEC after I eat there. And of course, tell you all about Usher, because Usher, we're going to Usher concert Monday night, so we're going to be to go see Usher, the concert. Like, I was surprised about this. I mean, you all know, like, listen, I'm a Usher fan, of course, and definitely wanted to, experience this tour, but just thought, oh, this is something that's like, I've had family and friends and people have went and they're in all of it. Like, and I was just like, oh, he came to Philly and, it came and went. And I was like, oh, I'm not going to be able to see him. And then lo and behold, here we are. So I will give you my full review on my Usher concert experience, after I go. But I'm from everything I've heard, I'm prepared to be wowed because it's like, he's the closest as a male Beyonce we have in the industry. I mean, as far as like, and I say male Beyonce because he's very much a performer. Usher can sing, of course, but he is a performer. Like, he's going to give you razzle and dazzle and costumes and they grew up in that era where, they were young artists, but they put their all into it. They didn't half-ass anything. They were trained, in the way that the greats were trained, the Tina Turners, the Michael Jacksons. We don't really have, to be honest, talent like that anymore. It's just, there's a couple of people that show potential, but I think what is missing is the patience, the consistency, and the stamina. Like you'll get an artist that will come out and they can dance. They're giving their all. They're performing. They're really doing it. The mic is on live. They're really dancing, right? And you get a couple of artists like that come up and then they'll evaporate within a year or so. And it's like, well, yes, you have talent, but can you be able to preserve it? And when you think about the artists of at least the artists of my generation, we got Beyonce and we got Usher. These artists have endured. These performers have proven themselves to tackle the test of time. And when there are people who try to compare them to other people who've not been able to do it in the same fashion or do it with a very dignified, decent, presentation. I mean, for the most part, Usher has not been in any major, controversies that really could have ruined his career, right? The same can be said for Beyonce. But you don't see that. I mean, we're going to talk about Chris Brown because I know you are like, well, what about Chris Brown? What about Chris Brown? What about Chris Brown? We'll get there, because this guy. But I think about some of the artists. Now, one artist I'm thinking about who is doing it is Victoria Monet. But I've been a big, huge Victoria Monet fan for a minute. And you all remember in the earlier episodes of this podcast, I was trying to tell you all about her artistry and how underrated she was, and how she really gave the voice and energy of a Ariana Grande, or as people like to call her, Ariana Grande. But to be clear, she is not of Latino Hispanic descent. She is Italian, and it's really Grande. That's the Italian way to pronounce her last name, and that's what her last name really is. But they decided to say Grande to play into the racial, ambiguity that she was trying to give. The blackfishing, all that. Google it; it's out there. This isn't news. But Victoria Monet is an artist that I think is really putting her best foot forward, and really trying to, bring her energy. And Meg Thee Stallion as a performer, she's showing a lot of, engagement and discipline and energy in her performances. I just want to say that part, and not rap performance. That I won't get into that debate. I know people have different thoughts. It's sometimes it's on, sometimes it's off in that department for me, lyrically, but performance-wise, I think that she has kept the pace. But there's artists that I really like Normani, and I'm just like, you have it, girl, but I don't know. Maybe this isn't her focus right now. She's went through a lot, so I think about someone who, if she was just more consistent, Chloe. I think Chloe has a lot of potential. I just think there's a lot of artistic, creative, I don't know if it's confusion, but she's got something, she's had something, but I don't know where she's going to take that and direct that. So it's, it's where it's at. But I digress. Usher has it, and, Usher's been consistent, and I can't wait to see another great. I've been blessed to see, some great performers. I mean, Beyonce's Renaissance tour, I mean, it's still the bar for me. But Usher as a male artist definitely is probably going to be the bar, because I don't really go see male artists that often. I mean, I'm just not impressed with a lot of the men in music right now. Unless we're talking about legends like, Stevie Wonder, who performed on my birthday in Philly, and I couldn't see him because I was too busy having a birthday party. But I mean, those, artists like that. I mean, Janet Jackson, despite her weird politics right now, Mr. Johnson got that opportunity. I mean, Sarah McLachlan, like, I saw her, this summer and lost my mind. I mean, she's just undeniable talent. But these are artists who have just stood the test of time. I'm talking about artists who's been in the game for over 25 years. It's just something, I'm not crazy about seeing any new artists really, or buying a ticket, to be honest. I don't have anyone I'm looking at right now that I'm like, I want to go see them in concert. I mean, maybe Billie Eilish would have been fun, but there's not that many that I'm just like, I want to drop money to see this new artist do a tour. I don't know. Sexy Red was a great performance this year. The Lip Brothers, we were recapping about our Sexy Red experience. But that was a music festival. And I mean, to be honest, I don't think we would have paid just to see her. But that's just my principle because I need a show. I mean, she had a nice music festival set. It was like a 40-minute set. And I think that's all of the sexy red I needed. But also nothing but bangers. But I mean, I have taste. We like variety. So yes. But I digress to say that thus far, the best restaurant I've been to in years, and Mr. Johnson surprised me with his lovely reservation. Such a man, such a romantic man. It was Smith. This restaurant is called Smith. It is spelled SMYTH. So no I. The Y replaces the I. It's called Smith. This is one of the best restaurants in America. This is one of the best restaurants in the world. And this is, I might have to say, is the best dining experience I've had in my entire life or in recent years. Maybe I get sudden miss. Like, I remember Vetri Cucina in Philly. And to be clear, before I get into why this restaurant is thebomb.com, it might be the most expensive restaurant we've ever done. I think if I do my math in my head, this is probably the most expensive dining experience we've ever had in our entire lives. I will not share the number, but it is definitely past 3 digits. We'll just leave it at that. I'll just say I had an $80 glass of wine. It was, dining can be a very romantic experience. Both of you have to be into it. And it could be all of the things that you think. I mean, listen, it's an art. It's a very unique experience. Don't try to dine with me or like me unless you are into it. It doesn't make sense unless you are in it. Some people will say, what? But it's not. Listen, I want to, full disclaimer, it ain't for everybody. It's not for everybody. This is a serious culture. Okay, they're like, I don't call myself a foodie. Like, let me be very clear. Foodie is people who like to eat snacks. Let me stop. Listen, real G's in this dining experience world. Okay, it is a very niche, some people call it elite situation. And there are people that I like to eat burgers and I like to go to new cute little restaurants. I'm not judging you. Baby, be a foodie. That is cute. And there's no judgment over here. But baby, I'm not a foodie, honey. I'm a diner. And I'm a committed, devoted diner. I'm a DD. Okay, I'm a devoted diner. That's a very different experience. I'm looking for an experience. Foodies, I think, and no shade, are looking just to have fun food, right? Oh, I like to eat food. Foodie is food-centric. Baby, this is not that. There are people that eat, and there are people that dine. And this is a dining experience. And I know I'm sounding like a snob, but let me have my moment. Because there's some people out here who come up to me and say, I'm a foodie like you, baby. I'm not a foodie. Just like they like to call me an influencer, baby. I'm not an influencer. I'm influential, but I'm not an influencer. And there's no disrespect to influencers because y'all know I got friends and folks that do it and I love them and they love me. But they will tell you, don't call him an influencer. Don't do that. They know. And it's all love over here. But I take this dining experience seriously. And a lot of people will play with me and go, oh, where's the best places to get sandwiches? Listen, I do list on that. Sandwiches matter, all that. But please understand the difference. And it's all about respect. It's not to say there's an oligarchy on eating. No, it's just that this is a particular type of art. And there are people that say they're a dancer. And it's like, do you dance or do you dance? And there's a difference, right? Like Bruno Mars might, bust a little move on with a microphone, but I wouldn't call Bruno Mars a dancer, right? And some people do dance. And there's some people that perform. And there are differences between that. And some people get caught up in the semantics and the rhetoric, but it do matter. Dining is a true art form. Eating is a necessity. Everyone should eat. Everyone should have the right to eat. Everyone should have the right to food and water, right? Like everyone should be doing that. I don't think we should be, in my
views around the world, I don't think people should, in a world, everyone should be able to access food and be able to do so in a way. Like, no one should be hungry in the world. I don't believe in that. But that being said, I believe people should have the right to housing. I think people should have the right to food and water and Wi-Fi, because we live in a world where I do believe in public access for people to, in the world. There should be no digital deserts. Anyway, Ernest for president 2028 aside. Well, will I be 35 by then? Yes. I'm not running for president. I'm just joking. But anyway, people think I should. Never. No interest. But all that aside, dining, however, is something that is of style. It is something that is niche. It is something of a unique, different experience. Like, I think about clothing. Everyone should have the right to clothing. People should have shelter and clothing. However, when you want to talk about fashion, right, that's style. That is something that people can invest in, or it's niche. It is something that's a little bit more, of the know. That's how I look at dining versus eating. I think everyone should eat. I think everyone should have access to food. But dining is a little bit of something else. It's people invest their time and money and energy into it. People, are selective about where they go, and they look for things that's going to challenge their palate in a unique, nuanced way. That's what it is to me. And so Smith embodies that. And it's something like, Mr. Johnson and I love to go out and do some serious fine dining. And some people might look and say, wow, I wouldn't do all. You know what? It's not for you, baby. Because everybody got their hobby and their niche. There are people that are really big into cocktails. And I am too. I'm one of those people. But there are people that are like, look, I don't go. Like I know in Philly, there is a bar culture. And this is because of Mr. Johnson. He's, bartender Barry. He knows the scene. And there are people that will not do certain types of bars. They don't take them seriously. They won't waste their money on a cocktail there. There's a particular list of places that they're like, look, I go to Super Follet, I go to A Bar, I go to the Ramstead Room, I go to R&D, the Philadelphia Distilling, baby. I'm naming the goats, baby. Okay, they are very particular of what bars they go to in Philadelphia. And it's a certain culture where they know the bartenders, there's a craftness to it, there's a presentation. I mean, everything about the cocktail matters. The type of ice you put in it, the shape of the ice, the type of glass you put it in, the presentation, the garnish. I mean, this is no joke. But there is a whole drinking culture, bartending culture. There is a whole eliteness of it. And look, for people who are into cocktails and whiskeys and liquors and liqueurs, this is something that makes sense to you. I have finally begun to respect it as somebody who's in the dining scene, that there is a culture, but it's a niche. Now, look, there's bars over Philly and people just want to have a good time and I guess get drunk and have fun, right? So they're like, I don't care about no ice sculpture. I mean, make it pretty. They don't even understand what that means, right? Just make it pretty, right? Give me something fruity and fun. That's the way that they'll talk about it. But these bars, there are people that are looking for a level of craft and art. It's not just enough to just have a quote unquote good drink. It's the experience is the room, the vibe, the intimacy, the presence. And that's an art. And so that's what Smith represented to me. It's just everything about it. It took me to a different world. It felt different. So we went on a lovely Saturday night. We had 14 courses. I don't even know how to describe the food. I will just say that it was very experimental. It was on theme. There were several dishes. If you go to my Instagram, you'll be able to see all of the dishes I had. I think I put all the courses in there. So it's a 20. I've never done a 20 photo gallery ever until Smith. And so you can see all the dishes. Don't ask me to describe them. I put the menu there so you all can see the menu. The menu does put a lot of this in perspective, of course, because I couldn't put into words everything. But I had pawpaw azaki with hibiscus, oyster and apple. I had a quail egg. I had a Dungeness crab and jackfruit. I had a sungo tomato and uni aqua chile. a Masasaki, Chihuahua Muski. I'm gonna ruin that. Caviar and almond, avocado and pistachio, a Maine lobster and a silk pack, a brook trout and a blade kelp, an Malaysian Fields lamb. And let me say something. Malaysian Fields in Pennsylvania ain't nothing to joke with. Anybody who's in the food world, y'all know Malaysian Fields is nothing to play with. I had a Malaysian Fields lamb and a malted milk bread. I had cranberry and coconuts. I had aged banana. I had a truffle tart with a truffle. I mean, it was phenomenal. Okay. It was an incredible multi-course dinner that I'm going to be thinking about for the years to come. I just, nothing compares. I mean, I'm going to say it's the best restaurant I had in years. I want to say ever, but that might be too much. But I will definitely say it is the GOAT. It is one of the GOATs. It's definitely in the top 3, and I don't see it moving anytime soon. So the chef is Chef John Shields. He's the executive chef of Smith, an incredible chef. I mean, the man has a vision. There's something unique about it. So the restaurant is centered around black walnut. And let me be very clear. Some of my people who have nut allergies. You might be able to get away with some of that, maybe. But black walnut is the theme of the place. I mean, the chef is from Virginia. And so everything, there's like this black walnut theme in the sauces and some of the things, the purees. But there's like this theme of black walnut throughout the restaurant outside of just the food alone. So the tables are made with a black walnut wood finery, the wood and some of the plating. I mean, it's just like this theme is throughout everything they do at the restaurant. I just love that. Like how this is okay. Have you ever seen the rest of the film with Ralph Fiennes that was really incredible? It was called I think it was called The Chef, and it had Ralph Fiennes in it. I think it was called The Menu. The Menu. That's what it was called. It's very good with Ralph Fiennes. It's something like that, except less pretentious. It's not as pretentious and like snobby as The Menu. If you all know I'm talking about the way they talk about the interesting dishes and they got these weird stories, that is how this was. All of these courses like were very unique and had a story and all of that jazz. We're not even going to talk about the cocktails and wine. Some of the best ever. I mean, this is just top tier. Now, before I get into this other aspect of it, this is a restaurant that you take someone that you're deeply, deeply in love with, someone that you're, engaged, married to, long-term relationship. At least you've been with them for over 3 years. Unless you're like a basketball player, you just can throw money around. I mean, then you can just do whatever. But this is serious. This is a serious restaurant for serious love and increase. Like, this is a place you take your mother, guys, if you don't have any woman in your life that you care about or any other woman that you love or care about, or partner or whatever. Like, if you don't have anybody in your romantic life you want to take, then take a family member that you care about. Take a child that is just excelling, like, if my mother was rich, if I was growing up, I'd be like, Mom, look, I'm class president Victorian. Take me here to celebrate these victories. Well, we went to Perry's Steakhouse in Houston. Shout out to those who love a good Perry's. But, and then we also went to Vic and Anthony's, which is another classic for all my Houstonian folks, which were just incredible steakhouses. Nothing compares. But anyway, like, this is where you take people you are serious about. Okay, these are people that you care about. And clearly, Mr. Johnson is telling me in so many ways that he's in love with me. Look at conspicuous consumption and capitalism. Even if we didn't go here, this would still be love, okay? But just when you can do it and you do it this well, it's just expression. It's such a thoughtful, like, it was just such a thoughtful gift. I mean, when someone gives you something that you truly like a gift or something thoughtful, that is something that is not about them and about you, but also something that you all can both like enjoy. Like, he enjoys fine dining, but like he knew that. I mean, listen. The Usher concert is going to be ridiculous, right? I love a good concert, but like Smith was just like the icing on top. And then also Virtue, which is like, he knew I love Virtue and like able to land a reservation there. The whole time he was planning this trip, apparently for the past couple of weeks and months, he already like, didn't even like the quick trip to Chicago. He's like, oh, you went to Virtue. How was it? And I was like, the whole time I was like, oh, it was great, blah, 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 not thinking, not putting, I had no clue. Like, it was a complete surprise. And so when he was asking, he was like, he was doing a and the whole time, I'm just like, not even realizing what was going on. He's good like that Aquarius. But no, Michelin star. So this restaurant has 3 Michelin stars. Now, let's talk about Michelin star. We talked about it earlier this year when I talked about restaurants in Philadelphia. Michelin, there's a big investment in it. It's a restaurant rating system that is around the world, and they rank and rate top restaurants around the world. And to have a Michelin starred restaurant is a huge, big ass deal. If your restaurant has a Michelin star, you are the creme of the la creme of restaurants. And there's only 13 restaurants in America that has 3 Michelin stars. And that's a big deal because, again, not that many there are some that have Michelin stars, but not everybody has 3. And that's a big deal to have a Michelin star restaurant, to get at least a star, to get a Michelin star, or, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. It's not that many that do. I am proud to say that I've now been to 2 restaurants with Michelin stars. That's something I can be proud to say. Smith is one of them. There's only 2 in Chicago, and of the 2, this is one of those restaurants that do have it. What can I say? This is, I'm blessed. Now, for those who want to know what is the other one, if you don't remember, La Bourdon in New York. La Bourdon has 3 stars, and we went to La Bourdon for New York. We had a romantic New York trip. I think that was earlier this year. That we went to, and I think that was where we went there, or maybe last fall. It was really cold in New York, so I'm thinking it was probably early this year. It was like our anniversary dinner celebrating 10 years. But 13 restaurants, it's the highest you can get. 3 stars is the highest you can get as a Michelin star restaurant. Only 3. So here are the restaurants, the 13 in America that have it. Addison in San Diego, Alina in Chicago, Altier Crine in San Francisco, Benu in San Francisco, 11 Madison Park in New York City, The French Laundry in Utteville, California, Inn at Little Washington. This is Washington, Virginia. It's called Inn at Little Washington, Virginia, DC, I believe. La Bourdon in New York City, which I've went to. Massa in New York City. Per Se in New York City. Quince in San Francisco. Single Thread in Harrodsburg, California. Smith in Chicago. And those are the 13 restaurants in America. Now, some of you all might say, where is Philly? Where is Houston? I guess there might be Michelin star restaurants that have 2 stars or 1 star, right? Which is a big deal. But there's only 13 that has 3. And if you notice, San Francisco got a lot of love on there. And of course, New York City. And Chicago got 2. Not bad. But if you notice that they're concentrated in particular areas, there are some cities that do not participate in Michelin stars. And Philadelphia is one of them. And I've told you all that I did a list for Eater a couple of months ago. That was one of the most read pieces that I've written for Eater in my entire career there. Talking about restaurants that would deserve Michelin stars if Michelin was a certified city in Philadelphia. I think Vetri Cucina would be on that list with no problem. I think that Kalela would be on that list. I think Provenance, which is this brand new restaurant that just opened in Philly, I think they would definitely be on the list of consideration for sure. River Twice, that tasting menu they had at River Twice, I think that would qualify. I didn't put it on the list at the time, but there's been many changes at that restaurant that I think it would rise to the occasion to be in the conversation. But yeah, there's a lot of interesting things happening with Michelin star and some Michelin restaurants. But I definitely think there are several in Philadelphia that would rise to the occasion. I wrote this list of 15 restaurants that I think would. And I definitely think some of the ones I just named would be. But Smith is one of those 13 that have been able to get three Michelin stars, and I cannot give it enough praise enough. So I just want to say that. Also, fan favorites. Of course, we're gonna go get some Chicago dogs. We went to a really great bar that Mr. Johnson was in love with called Nine, and it's in the Chinatown of Chicago, which they still have a lovely, prospering Chinatown. This bar is called Nine Bar, one of the best bars in Chicago. Went there. We had some really great fun drinks. One thing I want to say about the Chicago bar scene is that they really like clarified cocktails. And I'm a fan of clarified cocktails. Now, listen, it's not for everybody. It includes dairy in it, but it's clarified, like clarified milk, clarified whatever. They've been doing that in a lot of these cool cocktails they've had. And at 2 spots already that I've been to, of course, Smith, there was a clarified cocktail there. And then there was a clarified one at 9. They love this clarified situation. And I'm a big fan of clarified cocktails. Each one I've had, there's always been like a nice smooth texture and coolness to it that I prefer. But that's a theme I've noticed at Chicago bars. There's not that many in Philly that are doing it as much, but that was something I noticed thus far. We went to Harold's, of course, and had the fried chicken with the sauce. Oh my goodness. Never gets old. And definitely going to hit some other places. Let me tell you all right now, to some of my listeners, you know that I put a lot of thought into where I eat. And Mr. Johnson has put a lot of research because he actually surprised this whole trip is all him. Listen, I always tell people I don't need the recommendations. I give them. I have family that live in Chicago. Like, this is something that I do. Any restaurant or any city that I go to, I really like, because I'm a part of the Eater family, I talk to my Eater editors, my folks, anybody who's in this scene in the city. I do a lot of due diligence and research before I go. I know some people like to do the spontaneous dining thing. That's cool. That's cute. But when you in a major city like Chicago, a big restaurant city like Chicago, or even New Orleans, a place like that, you gotta know. And so, look, New Orleans is one of my favorite food cities. Chicago's definitely in the list, of course. Philadelphia is top tier to me. But I would say Chicago, New Orleans, and Houston, and Philly are my top 4. I don't know what is going to get the 5th slot. I can't really think of other places that really just have wowed me enough to put them at number 5 in a competitive way. I mean, New York would be too easy. I mean, the fine dining in New York is great. I guess I'll put that at 5. But to be honest, the top 4 I named are just so superior in their own right. Like, New Orleans is great. Of course, Houston is the bomb. Chicago is immaculate. Philadelphia is untouchable. Like, these 4 cities, I mean, I don't even want to rank them because it really depends. And then there's people that like to rank the cities, but I'm like, you gotta really go into the dining scene before you get into like comparing. Like, if you're just talking about, oh, I like the tacos here, it's like, okay, that's cute, girl, but like, there's gotta be some more substance there when we're talking about serious restaurant. That's why I can't take Keith Lee seriously when he talks his stuff, because I'm like, Keith, child, like no shade to Atlanta, but Atlanta don't have it. Like, Atlanta's food scene is like, okay, there's fun food. I guess that's a place for foodies, but like dining, I mean, redundancy, like redundancy. They say, describe the food scene in Atlanta, redundancy. Like, there's only so many like chicken and waffles and grass walls and platters and mama's big portion that you can have before you get past that. Like, look, they have some great spots, but like, I don't know. Some of it is just like redundancy. And somebody say, well, what about Houston? Look, you all are trying to turn Houston into Atlanta Junior, but it ain't going to happen because Houston is more cultured than Atlanta when it comes to food. I'm going to go there. Houston has, we have a great seafood scene. We have a great steak barbecue scene. We have a great African Nigerian cuisine scene. We have a great Mexican food dining scene. We have a great Vietnamese, Asian, South Asian food scene. And people know what I'm talking about from Houston. Y'all know. Houston is a melting pot, okay? It is a culinary capital of the South because it represents so many different cultural, coastal experiences. No one touched that. So please, with all due respect, I know there's people that talk about the turkey leg cut that is about to shut down because that husband couple that own it, baby, they just a hot mess. it's more than just these like very vibey, things. I mean, there are for the vibe restaurants in Houston, but that's not the scene, okay? That is for folks that just want to do hookah and want to be hanging out with Drake. Like that is that. That's its own little subculture, but that is not the Houston restaurant scene, okay? And real folks will tell you that it is not. And so Houston is on a different conversation. And for anybody to put them in the conversation with Atlanta is just disrespectful. I feel like black city, and chocolate city or diverse city, is going to have that little niche for the vibes restaurants. But that does not define the scene's culture. Unfortunately, I can say for Atlanta, that is the case. And even DC is having an identity crisis. There are some really great restaurants in DC, okay? There are. However, DC is definitely becoming gentrified with the For the Vibes restaurants, where that is taking up a lot of real estate in that downtown DC area. And I will say Baltimore, no disrespect to Baltimore. Baltimore is decent. The seafood is immaculate. Top tier seafood next to New Orleans. That I will give them. The seafood in Baltimore is definitely top tier, and we do not need to play with them with their I will say Maine. I will say Maine, Baltimore, definitely Houston. We got a Houston situation, but the New Orleans, those are some serious coastal, and maybe Miami, when Miami don't want to overprice and overrate everything over there. But I will say Baltimore seafood is superior. But when you get outside of the Boston seafood situation, like when you just put the crab cake down and you get past the crab legs, okay, it gets a little tricky with the food over there. And I will say the reason why I struggle with Baltimore, even though I do enjoy some Baltimore food, is that a lot of the restaurant is owned by one restaurant group, Atlas. And I love Atlas Restaurant Group because they, in my opinion, I think they saved the dining scene in Baltimore. I didn't say the food scene. I said the dining scene because, that's a different experience. Atlas Restaurant Group, I believe, saved the dining scene in Baltimore with their chain of restaurants. These are elevated chains. And I'm not against an upscale like chain, but sometimes that does play a role in how one can judge a restaurant scene or a dining scene per se, because it can't just be just one major chain saving the place. It has to be a variety. That's what I love about Philadelphia. We do have some small chains, but they're locally grained. They're like locally based restaurant groups that step in. You got Michael Solomonov, Michael Scholston. We love the mics. You have Steven Starr. You have Jose Garza's. You have Ellen Yin. You have these prominent leaders that definitely have a stake in the restaurant scene. Greg Vernick, of course. We're going to talk about Vernick later. These are just great places. And so there's a lot there. I didn't think I was going to talk too much about all this, but we love a good travel and we love we love our sponsors. But traveling matters. So travel to restaurants across the compare and contrast cities. And I would love to talk to y'all about it. So Chicago thus far has been fabulous. As far as teaching goes, CCP has been a thrilling experience. Love my students. I'm not teaching this Monday, as you all can be aware. I teach Mondays and Wednesdays, but this Monday, as you see, I am out of town, so I have a substitute, and my students do not know, because if I would have told my students I was not going to be on class on Monday, some of them might have skipped for the first time, and we don't skip Professor Owens' class. But what's cool is last Monday was the last day to register to vote in Pennsylvania, and Senator Bob Casey and Mayor Sherrell Parker stopped by my building that I teach, and they didn't come to my classroom. They came outside of it, and there was like a little gathering and rally that was downstairs, and I brought my students down, and they registered to vote. Most of my students, I think all of my students, have registered to vote. One of my students is 17 years old. They're doing they're taking some CCP courses, and I was like, dang. And she's a black girl, and she's so smart. And I was like, dang, you can't vote yet? She's like, no. And I was like, and I told my students, I was like, listen, vote for her. Because she, if you go to the polls and vote for her. Because she would, clearly she would be voting on the right side of history. And I'm like, and I know she's been following everything going on with the election. I'm just like, see, that reminds me of when I wanted to vote for Obama in 2008, and I was 17. I missed it by a year. and I couldn't vote for him. I was irked. I wanted to vote for the president so bad. But voting matters. So, CCP has been great. This week, some of the events I went to. So, Mr. Johnson, Jamarcus, and of course our good fave Sharon. All of us went to the new cigar lounge called Smoking Silverbacks, which is upstairs in Philadelphia Distilling. They're not owned by Philadelphia Distilling, but they have a relationship as in the same building. So on the second floor of Philadelphia Distilling, there is a spot, and it is called Smoking Silverbacks. It is Black owned. Yes, Black owned. And one of the people that own it is a former coach or for the 76ers, a Black guy who owns it with some other stakeholders. And this venue is, it's a fun party. Now, let me just say this. It is a cigar lounge. They smoke cigars. I don't smoke cigars. Sometimes I might, with my fraternity brothers, like there's a little gathering. They're into that. I might, someone brings one, I might puff a little, but not too much. I don't smoke. But, it is a cigar lounge. And so it is very much acquired. Now, we went and we knew, but let me tell y'all something. I had to take my clothes to the cleaners. My clothes was dredged in cigar smoke, baby. I was smelling like a pack of the finest Cuban cigars. It's something. So that I want to tell you, if you're not into cigar culture, it's not for you. But if you are, you are. So I know my lit brother, my good friend Jamarcus, he loves a good puff pass. And Sharon, of course, she's a vapes girl, casually. And she loves a good smoke. So they enjoyed it. They really did. And Mr. Johnson wasn't against it either. It was a vibe. It was cute. It was fun for the night. Definitely for serious cigar folks. I'm not one of those people. But I'm not, I can see myself popping in with a couple of frat brothers and, folks like that. But it's for people who want something a little bit more loungy, casual. They have the best seats. Oh my God, every seat in there was so relaxing and comfortable. Like, I didn't want to leave. I think that's what it was. We just was so in the vibe that we didn't even want to leave. The music was good. Just the vibe. It was just a very nice experience. So recommended for people who are in cigar culture to check it out. And it's a great, venue. It's like, look, you can go to Blue Co and have some really great cocktails and, have some bar snacks and have a good, little, good drinking time. And then you want to, proceed to retire to the Smoking Silverbacks on the second floor, take the elevator right up and keep the party going. I feel like that's it was such a genius. Whoever thought about putting a cigar bar there, that is genius. Because it just makes sense with the vibe. And also just everything in that Fishtown area that's over there. You got, the Fillmore, you got Punchline, I just feel like they just know how to really maximize the space over there, with the exception of Mama Joanna. But we'll talk about her in many episodes when I do my year-end review. I have some thoughts on some restaurants. I'm not going to hold my tongue when we get there a couple of episodes down, but just be prepared for that. So, Vernick Fish, we went back. But this time, I went to Vernick Fish for their Voyage series they did a couple of weeks ago, but I returned with Mr. Johnson. We tried their social hour, which is the new, I guess they call it social hour, but is that happy hour? Something like that. But I think I know what's the difference between social hour versus happy hour. Happy hour is filled with drink specials and light bites and all of that. And it's all about discounted rates and this, that, and the third. Social hour is, you want that nice little, it's almost like the word cocktail hour, but they say social hour. And I think a social hour is something where, look, the drinks are not ridiculously discount. It's pretty much the same prices, but they have specific cocktails that are meant to be lighter, meant to be more, fun and flirty. And there's, these great appetizers or snacks, right? Fancy restaurants call them snacks rather than appetizers. But they are, these snacks that are not super filling, light, but not like super light, like some chips, but like something that's a little bit more meatier and more sophisticated, but at the same time, nothing too heavy. And it's kind of like it's from 4:30 to 6:30. And it's kind of that thing you would do. Like, let's say you're on a romantic date and you want to say, look, let's go here for a cute drink or something somewhere before we go out. You would go here for that social hour at that, if you want to maintain a 5-star experience. So like Vernick Fish is a top tier restaurant in my opinion. It's very good, right? But let's say, a lot of times when people go on dates and they might say, look, I'm not this person. So I don't know if I can relate. I don't do this, but I know people that do, where they like to do before we go to dinner, let's go to this nice little bar and have a drink and just, talk and be cute. And then we're going to then proceed to the next restaurant. I'm not that guy per se, but I know people are into it. I'm kind of the type that's like, look, when we go out, just take me straight to the room. Take me straight to the restaurant. Okay? Classless. Take me straight to the restaurant. And what we could do is we can do the cocktails or something there and then transition to the restaurant for the main course. But all that hopping around different places, it's not necessarily a thing I do. Now, when I've gone with friends, like media events, they have done things like this where they were like, okay, go to a bar for a drink, and then after that, go to dinner at this next place. I'm like, that's just too much moving for me. But there are people that do this. And so what I've heard is from folks that are in the restaurant scene, the typical place that people do is a bar. They want to go to a nice bar that will be perfect for a cocktail or two, because the prices on them cocktails, like, listen, you have a drink or two, you looking at $60 or for $50 going in there. But it's not necessarily a happy hour. It's more of just the hour before you do dinner, because they're not doing crazy drink specials. And so you do that first, and then you go to the main restaurant, right? So you will then do dinner and you whatever. Yeah, I don't really do that. I'm not that I think it's a bad thing or I'm judging folks that do it. I just feel like that's just a lot of movement, right? So it's like, if I was going to like a kitchen, which is connected to a bar, then okay, I could see us going there and doing a cute drink and then proceeding. But they have a nice little bar in a kitchen that is, there's a nice bar at a kitchen where I could sit there, have a drink or something, and then proceed. But honestly, I just want to go, like, normally, y'all, like, I'm just like, let's go, let's do a cute round of cocktails and appetizers at the table and then move on. But I guess there's a level of extra intimacy and romance in that. So this is what it's called, the social hour. So for folks that want to maintain an elevated experience where you're not going to some rinky-dink bar that does not match the clothes you all are wearing to the main dinner, then you don't want to do a happy hour somewhere and then go somewhere like a lot of people will do. Another spot that I've heard people do is Attico, where Attico is where they do a little social hour, where they go to Attico and then go to some nice fancy restaurant in that area. Okay, I can see that, but it's just too much for me. I'm just like, take me straight to the restaurant. And if you want to do a bar situation a little earlier before the main one, I guess we can keep the tab moving and transfer. But I don't know. I've just never really done that. I think Mr. Johnson tried it one time and it was fun, but I think he was annoyed because he was like, oh yeah, I got to close out this tab and then go to the next place. And I think he was just like, I think we did it when we was first dating. And I think it was a bar where we went to a rented house restaurant. I think we went to Tinto, but before we went to Tinto, RIP to Tinto, that was a Garza's classic. We went to a bar and then we went to Tinto right after. Now, restaurants that I feel like you can do it even better at is Friday, Saturday, Sunday. If you have a reservation to go to upstairs, before you go upstairs, you might do a cute little early bar drink situation first, and because they have one of the best bars in the city, period. Then you would then transfer upstairs. I could see that because they don't really do crazy happy hour specials like that. But Vernick Fish did that. They have a social hour where we did the social hour, and rather than leave and go somewhere else, We just had dinner at we had dinner right at Vernick right afterwards. We had it right at Vernick Fish. We stayed right in Vernick Fish. We had the social hour. That was cute. Really great cocktails, light bites, all that. And then transferred right to dinner. And dinner, of course, was phenomenal. So that was great. And then also we went to the Morris, which a lot of people forget about. I feel like the Morris is very underrated. The Morris is in Rittenhouse. It is connected to the Morris Hotel. And Morris just feels like fall to me. Like every time I think of like autumn and I want autumn, cocktails, food, all that, the Morris just embodies that. And I hadn't been in a while, but I circled back and they're just as good as I last remember them to be. Just really nice portions, very flavorful, fall-focused, seasonal food with ingredients. I mean, everything about it is just very cozy, very affordable and reasonable in price, and just a nice restaurant to go to in Philly. It just is not so with all the frills and the fussiness and the noise. It's a really nice restaurant just to go on a cute casual date or something real nice that's elevated but not too fancy smancy, but also really done well. Like these people give a damn about the cocktails they make and the food that they make. Like it's so fun. It's really cozy. Like it's sweater weather energy. Like come with a cardigan, come with a cute, sweater and denim and be cute. I just really like I like Smith, but the Morris. The Morris is a good restaurant. So if you have not been, go. And that's a restaurant that has some really good deviled eggs. And there's not that many restaurants in Philly that do really good deviled eggs. The ones I think about is South. I think about White Dog Cafe that have the perfect deviled eggs for brunch. And I also think of the Morris. They have it with trout roe, which is a type of, people say it's a caviar, but it's roe. It's a smoked trout roe. It's not caviar, but it's caviar adjacent. And they put that on top of their deviled eggs, and they're incredible. I do love some caviar on a deviled egg, but that's very rare to find in Philadelphia. But it is very good. So, yeah. And then lastly, Little Water, the big restaurant that's opened by Randy and Amanda Rucker, who owns River Twice. And this is not to be confused with Little Walters. I'm talking about Little Water. It is in Rittenhouse. It's a new seafood restaurant. I got a chance to have a sneak preview there about a week ago, but I had a really great exclusive in-depth interview with the owners and a really great sneak peek look into the restaurant that is already making waves. No pun intended. Little Water is a seafood restaurant, and I've been talking a lot about how seafood restaurants have had a major impact in the food scene in Philadelphia. Like everybody is raving about seafood restaurants right now, and Little Water is continuing that. Jaffa, which I went to in Brooklyn when it first opened in Brooklyn last year. This is a new Steve Cook and Michael Solomonov restaurant. That is opened in East Kensington, and it's called Jaffa. I've been telling you all about Jaffa, and Jaffa is a seafood restaurant as well. It's Israeli. It's an Israeli seafood vibe. That's what it's giving. But I went last year, and I was very impressed with it. And Abel and I went, actually. Abel and I went, had a memorable time. Abel listens to this podcast on a regular basis. Cannot wait to see you in a couple of weeks in New York, bestie. And also, yes, remember Jaffa in Brooklyn? I was trying to remember this, but we went and we had a great time. I mean, it was a very great time. We had plenty of cocktails, plenty of seafood. He was so impressed. I mean, it's connected to the spot that has Kafar and Laser Wolf. And Jaffa was the only non-Philly, restaurant that was outside, like the first Stephen Cook restaurant that was not in Philly. All of his other restaurants that he's taken to Brooklyn and Chicago. He's going to have one in Chicago, y'all. There's going to be a Michael Solomonov restaurant in Chicago. Don't tell anybody yet. Anyway, I saw the receipts. I saw the details when I've been traveling. I seen it. It looks very nice. Anyway, there are some Michael Solomonov restaurants outside of Philadelphia, one included, that's one in Brooklyn. You have Laser Wolf, you have Kafar, and those were the two. But Jaffa was one that was not in Philly, and I kept saying it should come to Philly. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is now in Philly. So, it just opened this week around the same time as Little Water. And so there's seafood restaurants that are taking over Philly, and I've been calling this for quite some time. So I'm happy that people are, seeing what I got going on and seeing the trends, because trends matter in food. But yeah, they just opened. I did a really great in-depth inside for them, and it worked out. Little Water got the inside look, a big gain, because those owners are great. This is the second restaurant owned by Randy and Amanda Rucker. Of course, the James Beard nominated River Twice in East Passyunk is phenomenal. But this restaurant, they want people to know, and I want y'all to know this because they told me this in an interview, and I want to reiterate this for those who have not read the story yet. It is on Eater Philly site. You can see it. It's our big top story. But what I want people to know, that they want people to know, is that this is not a restaurant that you go to. This is not a restaurant that you go to like as a special occasion. So if you all know River Twice, they have a very, elevated a la carte tasting menu, all of that. They're very, high tier. You spend a pretty penny to go there. But with Little Water, that's not that. This is a very experimental, fun spin on classical seafood. But this is not priced at a level where you treat it as a special occasion. They want you to go to the bar. They have a really great bar program. They want you to go to the bar, twice or once a week. They want you to go to the restaurant, once a month or whatever, or twice a month or whatever. This is a more casual, comfortable restaurant. And this is where the old 20 Manning used to be. Carolinas, if you heard of them, this is where that restaurant used to be. Cook, all of that. This is where that restaurant used to be. Not Cook. 20 Manning and Delilah's. Is it not Delilah's? I'm sorry. Caroline's, Sweet Caroline's or whatever, or Caroline's restaurant. This is where that restaurant used to be. That really, it used to be very dark and very intimate in there. This is a little bit brightened. Amanda Rucker, who is Randy Rucker's wife, who's the co-owner, she did the interior design of the restaurant, and it is a beautiful place. So just wanted to put that out there. This is top tier. So Little Water, highly recommend. But yeah, that's my big trip. I mean, I definitely talked a mouthful about it. I didn't think I was going to have all the updates here, but this is going to be this is the week before the election, so we got some stuff to talk about. So let's get into hot topics. We're officially 1 week before the election. We are. I mean, next week, we're going to know. I mean, people are going to say, well, will we know by next week exactly? Like, not next week's episode, of course, because it's going to be the hours before the election. But next week, at the end of next week, I believe that we will know who the next president of the United States will be. I don't care about all the ballot fighting and all that. I whatever. We'll have a sense. Y'all, this is, I think she's going to win. I think she's going to win. I think that there's a lot of strong indicators that prove that. I think there are some people that want to make this a difficult obstacle illusion of sorts. They want to make this extreme, we don't know, it's a nail biter. Nah, I don't want to be cocky, but I just think she has it. I've seen enough. I'm going to predict it now. I think she's going to win. And honestly, I'm a little cocky, but I feel like not only is she going to win, but she's going to whip that ass. I really think that this race is not going to be as close as people make it seem. I think she's going to win. I think that the momentum is there. I think that she's really have not let not one single stone go untouched. I think that she really wants it. And I think that Trump has lost his goddamn mind. And I think he's lost his mind so much that even people who typically would make excuses for him are not. It's just not looking good. The campaign, his stamina, he's just not there. And I think people recognize it. And I think if we can vote him out the second time, this will be the second time we vote him out. But if they was not feeling him 4 years ago against Biden, and I remember how people really thought this man could win. And if there was ever a chance for Trump to get reelected, that was his best shot. I don't think that's the case here. I don't think he's going to win. I just don't see it. But to people who want to message me, I'm worried, please leave me alone. I'm really on good vibes only at this point. I'm sorry. I know there's things to worry about. I just don't want to be in that mindset. That's why I had to leave Philly this weekend. If I could leave next weekend, I would in a heartbeat, to be honest. But I just was like, I can't. I just don't want to deal with all of the Debbie Downers or the hyper, griftiness of the. This election has gotten so grifty, so annoying, super anxious, and I'm tired of it. Like white women, please, with all due respect, do not belabor me with all of your, I'm so worried about this election. Please don't. Because, listen, everybody want me to be worried about black men. I'm not worried about black men. I'm not worried about black women. I'm worried about y'all. I'm worried about white men and white women. Because honestly, this election is in you all's hands. And so telling a black queer person how worried you are about this election just is how you think I feel. Like, I can't deal with that. I can't. I don't have the time. I don't have the emotional patience, and I don't want to. I'm not here to be a comfy, no, I'm sorry. I gotta, self-preservation, to be honest with this, when it comes to this situation. So talk to your white friends, talk to white men, talk to family members, talk to white folks in your neighborhood next door to you in your neighborhoods. I mean, do that. Y'all gotta do that. Y'all gotta step up and do it. It's not for me to be the one to do all that for you. I just cannot. I don't have the emotional labor to. Sorry. And we gotta tell folks that. We gotta tell our people that. We gotta tell folks, like, this is not that. To the folks that have been playing obtuse this entire election cycle, voting registration is over. We're gonna cut this conversation really quick. I'm gonna tell those people, are you registered to vote? You are? Okay. You're not? It doesn't even matter, boo-boo. Talk to you in another 4 years. Because I had a situation like that at the barbershop with an anomaly, an outlier. There was a guy who was just talking all this crap about the election and this, and he went on for 10 minutes. And at one point I finally said, are you registered to vote? He says, not yet. I said, oh, the expiration date has expired on this presidential race. So at this point, honestly, you're going to be talking to yourself, because honestly, your opinion doesn't really matter. I mean, at this point, you're not a voter. You're not registered to vote in this election. So you're not voting in this election. And I don't think you ever had an interest to, because if you did, you said you've been keeping up with politics and that you've been reading and you know what you're talking about, but you forgot when the registration deadline was, which was October 21st. So yeah, you can stop talking, because it's not like you got all this smoke for Harris, but you talked about Trump, but all the people that Trump thinks going to vote for him, baby, they're not even registered. All of them presumable black folks that just are so hype about somebody voting for Trump. These are stunts. Like, you get 4 or 5 of them who go on Instagram, somebody they voted for Trump, and it's like, how much they pay you, baby? We know. And then folks get so caught up in arms that one random black person goes on Instagram and talk about how they vote for Trump. And we're supposed to believe that that's supposed to stop everything that's happening. They had a video of a white lesbian couple which talked about how they're casting a vote for Trump. And we were just like, first of all, like, I need y'all to understand intersectionality. I'm not too surprised that a white lesbian couple voted for Trump. Reason why is because historically, when you look at any white gay voters, the vast majority of white gay voters or queer people that vote for Trump are white. That's just statistically a fact. Like, we know that the vast majority of voters that are LGBTQIA that vote for Trump are white. So, there is racism in the neighborhood. There is racism in the LGBTQ community. One marginalization does not speak to another. We see this with sexism and misogynoir in black and brown communities. Let's be for real. Like, one idea don't speak to others. So when I see this white lesbian couple get on Twitter and make it a point to say, we voted for Trump. Okay, are we surprised? No, we're not surprised, because this is what y'all do. You will choose your race over your gender. You will choose your race over your sexual orientation. You will choose your race over every other ism that you have experienced in the name of pushing white supremacy. So that is why progress can sometimes get held up, because we have folks from various other marginalized communities that cannot be in solidarity with black people. Yes, black people, because we have folks in Latino communities that are showing large numbers of interest in Trump. And I'm just like, how? Because again, the anti-blackness is real. When I tell people, they say vote like a this, vote like a that. No. This ain't an of color conversation. This is an anti-black conversation. People always say, oh, people against people of color. This man, okay, has done a anti-Muslim ban. And Trump was out there in Michigan with some Muslim supporters, allegedly, on stage, talking about how they support him and say that he will make the world safer. But he didn't even make America safer for those who are of Muslim faith. Like, how is he going to make us a safer country when the reason why there's been a rise in hate crimes is because of the rhetoric of Trump in 2016. We know of the issues that have happened at mosques and how they've been connected to far right, white supremacy, and Islamophobia. But okay, I'm going to let you, I'm supposed to believe that these individuals who have partaken in this level of grift are not literally playing in our face. How much did it cost? Because you paid a price. You didn't do it for free. We're not gonna keep doing this. We're not gonna keep playing these type of games. We're not gonna keep being intellectually dishonest about the state of this election. She's gonna win. He's desperate. And let me tell you why I think she's gonna win. Because she's got people doing things they've never done before. Beyonce, okay, and Kelly Rowland showed up. Now, some of you all might say, Beyonce's always been a Democrat and supported Democratic candidates. Oh, absolutely. But one thing that she did was that with 30,000 people in my hometown of Houston, Texas, Beyonce didn't go up and dance like she did for 2016 for Hillary. She got up there and she spoke. Do you know how hard it is to get Beyonce to come out of her mansion somewhere in the Port of France or LA or wherever she resides, to come out and speak without a check at a campaign, for her to come out, okay, and be in front of all those people and not sing a new song, because she kept saying a new song. And I was like, ooh, is there going to be a song? No, she told you all to make sure you vote, and why it matters for her children as a mother, not as a celebrity, not as a musician, but as a mother. Not as a politician, but as a mother, that this election matters to her. Mother Tina, Kelly Rowland gave a great speech. Like, they are not here to entertain. And even when I think about Eminem didn't rap in Michigan. Eminem is one of the few mainstream rappers that have taken a position on this election. And while Eminem has his flaws, we know he definitely do. Some of these rappers that have been silent on this, history is going to remember this. It's disappointing that Kendrick Lamar, which nobody spends enough time talking about his politics. They're a mess, y'all. They're a mess. But they'll spend all this time praising these rappers. And yes, they're talented artistically, but they miss the moment when it comes to stuff like this. And it's also because of their views. And it's like, you all are just so missing the moment right now. And so when I think about the fact that Eminem, who is largely popular in hip hop and in music, right? He's going to talk to those white men, those young white men in Detroit and in Michigan that look at him as a GOAT, right? He's going to appeal to some of those guys, and I have thoughts about that too. We'll get to that, but he's going to do something. And so Beyonce coming to Houston like that is a big deal. Now, I have a theory, and this is just me talking out loud. I don't know this to be fact. I don't have no inside information. I am just thinking, I'm just predicting. I don't know anything. I'm noticing the pattern that she's been bringing out Usher. Usher came out in Atlanta. Tyler Perry did. I've noticed a pattern that she's bringing out celebrities in their respective hometowns to advocate for her. The day before the election, she's going to spend election day, the night of the election in Howard. She's going to spend the day before the election in Philadelphia. I just want to start by saying that this past weekend that I was not in Philly. I've not been in Philly this weekend. She had Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert De Niro, Kerry Washington, Tyree Bryan, who was in Atlanta, the show Atlanta. He's a great actor. Brian Tyree Henry, that's who he is. Yeah, Brian Tyree Henry, who was in Atlanta. He was in Causeway, where he won an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor. Transformers 1, Internals. He's like a hot actor, black actor. And Tessa Thompson, okay? She had Tessa Thompson out. And again, these are some big moves. The fact that she can have this type of momentum to come out for her is nothing to sneeze. I mean, nothing to sneeze on. Like you can't even act like that isn't. I mean, celebrities. I mean, Benson Boone came out and performed. I say all this to say that I think Taylor Swift is coming. I don't think Taylor Swift is performing. I think there's been an interesting trend with all of this, is that these artists, they keep talking about performing. No, they're not performing. They're coming and they're just using their platforms to endorse. And that to me is probably more powerful than concerts and things. Now, there has been performances, right? Meg Thee Stallion performed this summer. That was cool, right? There's been, Benny Benson Boone, he performed. Willie Nelson came out. Bruce Springsteen can't help but get on the guitar. But like Eminem, right? Usher, right? Beyonce, right? They're not doing that. And I think that means something. That these are celebrities that are actually speaking. They're not just doing a show. And that's important. And so I think Taylor Swift is going to come and speak. I think she's going to be the big, huge, buzzy, newsy bang that's going to kick off this election. I think she's going to show up in Philadelphia. I think she's going to come. And I think it makes sense. She's been on tour. She's not performing. She's not doing it. And the reason why I think this is because the day before the election, which is November 4th, she's not scheduled for the tour. And I might even be riskier to think maybe she might bring out Kels. Maybe, because Kels is in Philadelphia. Is the Kels going to show up? Because, other players are endorsing people, on that team. The Chiefs got some Trump supporters over there. Why not Travis Kelce use his star power and the Kelces come out in a very Philadelphia way with a Pennsylvania girl like Taylor Swift and go out there and really shake things up? When you think about the Taylor Swift endorsement the night of the only debate, how much that really brought out high voter registration excitement. I really think that she using her star power in that way could be epic. Beyonce brought out the largest rally that the campaign has had this entire cycle. If Beyonce is going to do it, Taylor, come on, white woman. White women do it because black women keep showing up. I will give that. Black women have been showing up and black men have been showing up. Usher is nothing to sneeze at. Eminem's not, white men. Eminem, top white man, I suppose. But like Tyler Perry, there's been some prominent black men. Magic Johnson, they've come out. I believe LeBron James. There's some people that have shown up now. Black men and black women have shown up. Big stars this time. We looking at you, white women. Y'all gotta put y'all favorite white woman, not just Deborah Messing, not just the typical folks. Y'all love y'all some of the white girls. With Kevin Bacon and Kira Sedgwick, they came out. But we need the big one, Leonardo DiCaprio, top tier white man. I'll give them that. But we need the white girl of the white girls to come out. Sabrina Carpenter's from Pennsylvania. Will she show up? It might be fun, right? Sabrina Carpenter might come out. But I just feel like Taylor Swift, this is your moment as a white woman. You can really do your big one. We'll see. Just gonna leave it at that. We'll see. We will see, baby. So let me see what else I'm interested in. I had another this presidential media tour. Y'all, we've lost the plot. Trump went on Joe Rogan. Kamala Harris, our vice president, is gonna go on Club Shay Shay. These are great media ways to reach out to voters. But folks was in a tiffy when I had said to people that, I can't wait for this election to be over, because the fact that this is a crucial moment, that the fact that we've gotten to the point where it is crucial for Trump and Harris, these presidential candidates, to make an appearance on these types of podcasts to reach voters. Okay. This man has been reported, I'm talking about Trump, right? That it's been said that he has made comparisons to himself and Hitler. That General John Kelly, who worked closely with him, was somebody that made comparison, that he said that Trump in many ways admired Hitler and made remarks and statements that favored Hitler. I don't know why this election is still happening. Unless we can admit that we're dealing with people who are invested in their privileges. And I have some theories and some thoughts, and I'm going to share that more next week. But this is ridiculous. It's just ridiculous that we've gotten to this point in politics where these are the things that has to happen. And there's a lot of reasons why. The free press, mainstream media has been failing us. I'm thinking about this interviews that didn't happen over the weekend too. Stephen A. Smith is coming out in support. They're speaking out against Trump on Fox News. He went viral. Charlamagne the God, apparently with Angela Rye. They have been very critical of CNN. They got into a back and forth with Anderson Cooper about the nature of the nature of the election and the politics and the blah, blah, blah. And so that also took place. It's a lot of, I don't know what the word the kids say, pump faking going on. It's one of those situations where I'm like, okay, we can have these thoughts, but like at some point you gotta wake up and be real about it. And I think that's what's pissing me off a little bit, is that everyone's trying to act like they don't know what's happening, what's causing this type of madness. And that's a little annoying. It's like, come on, let's be intellectually honest about the state of this race, and the fact that a lot of this is that if you're not supporting her, it's speaking to your racism, it's speaking to your sexism, it's speaking to your investment in white supremacy prospering. Like, I'm sorry, I don't have any nice words to say about it. There's no common ground to be found. I don't know a logical reason why anyone at this point would support him and Jill Stein. That's the her, right? I don't know why anybody would support Jill Stein or support Trump unless you just want chaos. If you think Jill Stein is going to fix the issues in the Middle East, she's not. She can't even fix the issues of the fact that every 4 years is when she gives a fuck about coming out to politics. I mean, if you're going to be a consistent idiot, at least be consistent. She's inconsistent in her idiocy. Like, she's unserious. And for people that vote for her that want to act like they're a smart aleck or they got some cool chip on their shoulder, you are literally participating in harm. And you're acting like you're on some moral crusade, that you got some very strong moral belief. History is going to remember you, and I'm going to remember you. And quite frankly, I don't care about you. I don't care. And honestly, I have unfollowed certain people in this election because, yeah, I'll talk more about that and Ask Ernest, because you all asked this really good question about that. But I just feel like there's a lot of people being is dishonest. Like Charlamagne the God and Stephen A. Smith, I talked about them on Instagram. I did a thread that you all really was feeling about the hypocrisy. I don't care about whether or not they come out in support of Harris at this point, or they're criticizing Trump. because it's a grift for them. They see where the tide is turning. It is in trend and in style right now to be in favor of Harris. Like, there was a period of time at the beginning of this year where it was in style and in vogue to talk about what Biden's not doing and how Biden's mentally declining and how Biden should drop out and how, you're worried about Trump. And there were a lot of hoteps and no-teps and folks that were entertaining these ideas around Trump's stuff. And was the country better off for the? It was a lot of weird talk happening at the beginning of this year. And people like Charlamagne the God would entertain problematic ass rhetoric that favored Trump ideas. I seen it with my own eyes. He was entertaining that rhetoric. He was going on Fox News, making these appearances, just really playing contrarian. And you all remember the many episodes I did at the beginning of this year talking about the foolery of him. That Stephen A. Smith began to make Fox News appearances and talk very conservative talking points and really be critical of the Democrats and really be critical of them and using these very far right platforms. Like, it's one thing to be critical about the administration. Look, I recognize the problems with the Biden administration. I recognize the problems, what's going on. But to really give Trump get him off the hook. There was a passiveness in the way that the contrarianness, the obtuseness that those two men were doing. And then all of a sudden, once Harris gets the nomination, you see Charlamagne begin to fold. Because now the conversation is, there you go. Are you going, well, of course he has an issue with black women. Of course he's against black women. He has a history of transphobia against black trans women. He has a history of misogynoir against black women, whether they're trans or congruent. He has always, a cisgender, he has always had an issue with women, black women. And it's so disgusting to me that Angela Rye continues to really peddle him around and be that voice. I guess every trash can needs a lid, because it's like, that's like if I, moved around a problematic black, I'm going to say this in my opinion, RuPaul is very problematic at times. Like, if I ran around, defending RuPaul and a lot of the problematic things he has said and done, and just consistently moved him around, or Karamo Brown for that matter, as a black gay man, I would be problematic. Like, it's not my job to try. But the issue here is actually, this wouldn't even be the right comparison. It would be if I was running around carrying water for Lil Boosie, who's been very transphobic and homophobic, especially Lil Nas X. And I, as a black gay man, was defending this straight transphobic, homophobic man, right? Angela Rye has been running around trying to platform and continue to platform and give and help and aid this image repair that Charlamagne the God is trying to have. And at this point, I want to know how much. Because it can't be free. Because that's what she do, consulting and strategy. How much is Charlamagne the God paying you to help you fix his misogynistic, homophobic, transphobic, bigoted ass image? Because it seems like we ain't buying it. And I don't care how he can score and dunk on the media. Listen, it's the pot calling the kettle black. He's sitting up there talking about how, Trump has been this. They don't talk enough about Trump and this, that. Dude, you sat up and aided in this both sidisms argument against Biden. Like, now you want to be on the side of Kamala because you can't switch on her because you're trying to beat the anti-black woman allegations. But you ain't fooling anybody over here. Okay, I see it for what it is. You are opportunist. There's been many opportunities where you could have just shut up. There's many opportunities where you could have not played devil's advocate and become the devil in real life, right? You have benefited off of the degrading of progressive voices, black women voices, queer and trans voices. You have consistently been that way, so much that you and that idiot DJ Envy, right, have now been used in Trump ads because you have played stupid games and you have won stupid prizes your entire career. And now you want to go out here and talk about how you send the cease and desist and you want to, dude, fuck you. Fuck you and fuck Stephen A. Smith. Because you all have created the problem. You're the reason why people think that black men are not showing up enough for the Democratic Party, because you have peddled this fucked up talking points that have been far right adjacent. And for Angela Wright to continue to be the pick-me of problematic black men in these types of repair image work, you have been so, like, I will never, like, I have, like, literally, I do not like Angela Rye. And you all know why. Because this is a woman that, when she first tried the platform Charlamagne and God, and she tried to launch that podcast that no one cares about anymore, was it Forgotten Land, Dumb Land? I don't know what it's called, but Promised Land, like, what is it? I don't know. I screw it up every time, and my good friend Lauren be cracking up. But this stupid ass podcast, you sit up and it's under his network, and you do this. You're talking about, you know, a horrific experience that you experienced, and you make a strong allegation against Chris Cuomo. And listen, I believe survivors and victims, right? But at that same note, this man has been accused of sexual assault. We're talking about Charlamagne the God. This man has admitted to Spanish Fly. And you sit up and you're aligning yourself with him, but you're at the same time talking about victims of sexual, you know, harassment and all of these things. And you're over here talking about I don't know. But bird behavior is what a feminist told me. A black feminist said to me that Angela Rye partakes in bird behavior. That's a quote. I didn't say she's a bird. I won't call a black woman a bird. But I will tell you that a black woman, feminist, who, and several of them, who have seen some of the things that Angela Rye has done over the years and has continued to do, right, in aligning herself with someone as homophobic as Charlamagne the God, right? Like, you're no ally to me. You're not being in solidarity with community. This is a benefit that supports you, your brand, and your money. And you all benefit and profit off of these two-sidisms and these games. I'm not stupid. I know what it looks like. If the price is right, that's how I view it. Because money is moving over here. I've seen it. I see this every 4 years. Some of the same people that play the game about Democrats not doing enough. I mean, okay, warranted. But at the same point, right, you all begin to really act like you're spokespeople for black voters. Act like y'all don't know shit. You don't know enough about black voters. Like, Charlamagne the God does not know shit about black male voters. All this, I've been to the barbershop. And you know what? Let's stop using the barbershop reference if we're not going to tell the whole story. Because I just told y'all the whole story. Let me tell y'all the real story about the barbershop talks. So yes, there are dudes in the barbershop, some, not all, because we're not going to keep over-indexing these dudes. But let's talk about the actual barbershop story. What black men know about the barbershop story. I told you it earlier. I'm going to bring it up again. Let me tell you the story that they're not telling you about the barbershop story. Is that, yes, black men will go to the barbershop. There will be some brothers in there that will talk crazy about Trump or the election, Democrats and Kamala, women and sex and stuff. That's true. Those conversations do happen. But here's the second part of the conversation that they don't tell you all because it's so anticlimactic. Those men don't vote. They don't vote. They've never voted. They won't vote. Some of them may have voted for Obama in 2008, but they typically don't care about elections. They would not be able to tell you where their nearest polling location is. They don't vote. They don't care about neither the candidate. They just want to shoot the shits. The second part of the conversation is what kills any level of credibility that you might have thought you had in the first half of the conversation. So this is what I mean when I tell people that people are telling half-truths. Or telling half a lie. Because if the lie is that it's a half lie because it's not really a half truth because you're misleading people to believe that black men don't support Kamala, that they don't support Democrats. And you're basing that off of a conversation that has not been fully fleshed. So you're telling a half lie. If you tell the lie, if you tell a part of the story and leave it at that, that is a lie. That's not true. So there's really no such thing as a half truth. It's really a half lie because was a full lie, but you're telling half of it, half the information to get to the lie. It's a lie with half of the information being provided. Provide the full half, both halves to get to that fucking story. But it's a lie. And I've been knowing this, and black men have known this. And I'm sick of people like Stephen A. Smith and Charlamagne the God that gets on these platforms and tell these half lies. It's bullshit. So there's a lot of people that do it. And I've seen it also in Philadelphia, because let me talk about Philly. I've been looking at who's been in these campaign ads. I've been looking at some of the folks that's been in these campaign efforts, and familiar faces as well. And I've been noticing that some of these people that have been pretending and acting like they're undecided and they don't know what they're voting and this and that and the third. I've noticed a pattern that these men who get on these platforms and talk like this, 2 weeks later, they're in a photo with, the vice president, or Tim Walz, or they're part of the campaign, and they're in these special roundtable conversations, and the campaign has to engage them, and now they've changed their mind. It's like, I remember some of you all were the same black men who were in those gatherings saying the same thing when Biden was going against Trump in 2020. You still think that? Or is it just that you got to play the game to get some extra dollars because Philadelphia has issues when it comes to poverty and people want to make their coins and they don't think they're getting paid enough? And so this is what happens. We see the pimping and exploitation of a predominantly black and brown city that is being exploited and is grifting the system to get relevance and make money because there's a scarcity in their mind around resources around this. That for some other reason, people that actually would just vote for Kamala and support Kamala, they don't want those people. Because the only people they want to appeal to are people that are undecided, or people that they feel like are crucial to debunking myths. So a person like me is what they don't want, because they're like, okay, you're going to support her. They want people that are super heterosexual black men that quote unquote look like they won't vote for her, whatever the fuck that means. But I've heard this from campaign folks that have said things like, we're looking for folks that look like they might be swayed by Trump. What does that mean? And I look at the people they're bringing. A lot of those people are hyper-masculine, presenting, cis het men for the most part, or appear or present as such. They're not looking for black queer men, black educated men that are outwardly expressing their education levels, whether they're black, lawyers or doctors or engineers, or people that are showing up. There's a lack of black professional class that is being entertained in the black male pool, unless they are using elected officials to carry out. I mean, John Legend is coming. I forgot. John Legend was on Sunday knocking doors in Brewery Town over there in North Philly. Unless they're black celebrities, they're not engaging the black, professional educated class of men often, unless they're elected officials or celebrities. I've noticed that pattern. That has been something I have seen this election cycle that we'll talk about it after the election, but it's an interesting thing. Like, we'll see. Does it play? Does it play out? Does it not play out? We'll see. Now, before I move on, we will talk about this. The Washington Post and the LA Times have decided not to make an endorsement for president, the first time in many years. Washington Post says that they're no longer going to endorse any presidential candidate in future years, that they're going to be focused, that, they're not. They'll have editorial content, but there will not be an endorsement by the paper or the editorial board. They've decided not to do it. Jeff Bezos has been accused, he's the billionaire owner of it, of stopping this, that apparently he decided to stop it. The owner of the Los Angeles Times have also decided to not do it as well and has stopped it. There's been a lot of backlash. There's been a lot of resignations from the editorial boards of both of these newspapers. As you know, the New York Times, they're going to make an endorsement. The Philadelphia Inquirer, A Broken Clock is Right Twice a Day. They made an endorsement. But a lot of these other places that typically have done it in decades did not. Here's my issue. Why I know this is like illegitimate. We have found out that both papers were going to endorse Kamala Harris. I mean, that's a no-brainer. We also recognize that Why are you all choosing to? The reason, and so people have been canceling subscriptions, and people have thoughts about how that might hurt the journalists and things of that nature. People want to know what I think. Listen, let it burn. I'm going to say that we're at a crossroads in this country where you just can no longer be complicit in spaces that are harmful. And the people have a right. You know, I wrote the book on cancel culture. It's their democratic right. If people do not want to subscribe to the Washington Post, they shouldn't have to. If that's their way of demanding change, if that's their way of forcing this outlet or this publication or to harm the owners, whatever it is, sometimes when you boycott things, there's other people that have to take away. I mean, the same could be said about when you all choose to boycott, Chick-fil-A, right? None of you all are like, oh, that's going to hurt the people that work there, right? But if this is an institution that represents homophobia and things of that nature, then it is a sacrifice that people have to make. You can't force people to do that. Same thing with the Washington Post. If this is a paper where they claim democracy dies in darkness, but yet it's dark as hell and they've allowed it to do that, then there needs to be some type of protest of sorts. And so if people want to cancel their subscriptions, I don't blame them, because you got to have some, you don't have to subscribe, because the whole point is that some of these billionaires might be manipulating the people's interest in the free press to say, we can do this. Actually, no, you should not, and you cannot. The editorial board resigning is a sign of zero faith. Like, people are leaving these positions and resigning in protest. And I think that's a really powerful statement. And I think that that's, to be honest, the right thing to do, because once you lose your autonomy to do the thing that you're supposed to do, and you're letting the wall be violated, aka you're letting restaurants, take over, then that creates a problem. That creates a problem. And that's a real thing. So, I think, we got to fix that. We have to. If people want to do that, I'm not against it. I'm not against it. Sorry. I know people say, well, what about journalists? I care, but I also think that that at this point, anybody who wants to partake in mainstream journalism like this, it's a time for us in the industry, those who have courage, to have courage. We have to. And my biggest issue with this endorsement policy is that if they would have made this decision at the beginning of the year, before there was nominations, before there was anything, and just simply said, we're not going to do that, I would have been fine with that. But the fact that you're this deep in the election, you're going to pull an endorsement, and you decide to pull the endorsement when it is Harris, right, that's going to get it. It looks like you didn't want, well, it feels, and I sense that you didn't like the outcome of the endorsement, so now you want to pull it. And you're going to pull it this late when people have already done the work and they've done all that? No. That's sus to me, and that tells me that it's not about bias or neutrality. It's really about the fact that it does not serve your personal, financial, political gains, and so therefore you're now taking over. And we knew that billionaires taking over these publications was going to lead to some problems, and we have now seen them leverage their influence to now impact the free press. It is disgusting. It's despicable, and people need to speak up. So, into local news quickly. City Council, there's a lot of conversations right now that's being had about City Council. There is, Chinatown, the proposal has come. Council member Mark Swilla of the Center City District, that encompasses Chinatown, has made a proposal. And I was covering it live. You all saw my social media, my Instagram post that went viral. People were praising me for covering it and how I did and letting people know what was going on. But it was one of the most chaotic days, which I told y'all was going to happen, that this was going to be chaotic. I mean, City Council was packed to the brim. They were shouting, they were chanting. There was noise upstairs, downstairs, large signs and balconies. People were getting arrested and escorted outside of the council chambers. I mean, it was a protest. It was intense. But it's We knew this was going to happen. And I don't know. Is this going to be the future? From now until the next 30 days, there will be hearings. And I want you all to keep up with this timeline. The final decision will be the second week of December. That will be the finale of Philadelphia City Council Live for this break. We're going to have a winter break before we come back next January. But the way it's going to roll out is that there's going to be another council session hearing that's going to take place this Thursday. The next Thursday, because that's the election week, there will be no City Council Live. And then we'll have 2 more weeks. And then we're going to be out that Thanksgiving Thursday. And then the final 2 weeks will be up for passage, where there'll be a presentation and there'll be a vote and all that jazz. So we got a lot of work cut out for us when it comes to this situation. So I just hope people are paying close attention to the work that's happening, because it's a lot. It's a lot going on, and it's gonna be quite telling. So yeah, stay tuned. I mean, I knew this was gonna happen. Like, I knew the division was coming. I knew it was gonna be intense. A lot of people are talking about they're surprised. I'm like, don't be. This Chinatown arena situation, I mean, Squilla is proposing some community group or something that's going to help protect the merchants and the vendors in Chinatown, I guess. But I was talking to someone that's close to the situation in City Hall, and I told them, I said, listen, the issue I have with this arena is that it's very clear that this is not a unified front, that this is not unified, that people are not fully in support of this arena, that there's no complete investment, that there's a bias there. And so I don't see it. I don't see it. And that's the thing for me. Like, I don't see this taking off. I don't see this taking off. I mean, popularity is just not there for it. But I do feel there in my gut that unions, the labor unions and stuff, might have had counsel that this might actually pass, y'all. I think it, I think it might. Because when I was there, I saw the labor, I saw the unions, I saw the big bosses, and I saw that they were chanting over the Chinatown protesters. And there's a division. But what it's telling me is that, again, billionaires will take the rule. And I'm getting very cynical, y'all. I really think there's a strong chance that they might show their asses and council might flip. But we're going to see how people vote on this, because who votes and how they vote is going to tell us a lot as well. So stay tuned. That's a big one. Just stay tuned. Stay tuned. So this week's Ask Ernest, people ask me, what's next? How do we heal after this election? Let me tell you like this. A lot of people done showed their ass this election cycle, and we knew this was going to happen. But where I'm at when I'm talking in the progressive space and the liberal space, I'm not really going to talk about this country, and because this country's been divided for quite some time, and it's going to stay divided. No matter the outcome of this election, people are going to be in their feelings. This is not going to heal itself. I just hope for very speedy results. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. I just wish in my fantasy that Kamala beats Trump's ass so bad that in the polls that it's not going to take that long for an outcome, to be honest. I just feel like there's a part of me that feels like Trump is preparing to lose so that he could be able to make it look like it's a close race. I think there's a manufactured vested interest in making this race seem close, and Trump is playing into the stunt so that he can then act like the election was stolen from him. I think that's the investment, is that there's an invested interest in making this race appear close, and I think Trump wants to keep that narrative going so that when the election, we get to the final election, he can try to act like the race was stolen and that he can justify trying to challenge all this shit. He's pulling the same stunt he did last time. He's prepared to lose. He knows he's going to lose. And the fact that there's these election certifiers that are already prepared, it's like, and these are Republicans. So y'all basically are saying to us in so many ways, like there's already a New York Times magazine feature on them. And I'm like, why are you all talking like a defeatist mindset? Like, why is your mindset like we're prepared to challenge these election polls? Why? What if your person wins? And you want to know something? Because this has to be said. This is the reason why I know the election scam fraud shit is bullshit. Because what happens, what you're saying is, you forget, a ballot is the issue. You can't control the election because you're really not complaining about the candidates. You're complaining about the ballots. Let me make this make sense. In 2020, when the reason why some Republicans could not get down with this whole election fraud argument is because the reason why the media needs to say this, and I want to say this, and I want you all to really think this through. Please tell a friend. I might have to post this on my Instagram or something, but y'all got to make this clear to people on social media. I want every person to understand that the arguments around ballot election fraud cannot be substantial for Trump, and it will never stand, because in states and areas where Trump might lose the presidential, Republicans will win the Senate and the congressional seats. If you want to challenge a ballot, you would literally have to challenge the election ballot votes of the Republicans that won and everybody else. You can't just contest the presidential race because the presidential race is not an independent ballot. It's a ballot that includes governors, senators, state reps, and everyone else. So if you challenge Kamala winning the ballot, you're going to challenge everything else, because how can there be fraud for just the presidential section, but not the rest of the goddamn ballot? Come on now. Let's wake it up. So let's say, for example, because this is how Pennsylvania works. I remember this like it was yesterday in Pennsylvania. Do you all remember that Pennsylvania still voted for a Republican auditor general? They still voted for Republican state reps, right? In areas where, okay, voters might have voted for Kamala in the suburbs, but they voted conservative for other statewide seats. If you challenge that ballot, you're not only challenging Kamala, you're challenging that Republican. So how do you make this make sense? How do you make this make sense? How? How do you do it? How do you tell states like, I don't know, Pennsylvania, I guess, right? Or Georgia, that, you know, these Republicans that you voted for Congress, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, that ballot's not correct because it has a Kamala vote. There are some people Republicans and independents that will vote for Republicans in statewide seats or congressional seats, but will not vote for him for president. And so if you try to challenge the election results, you would actually have to challenge even the Republican seats. That's why no one gave a fuck about. That's why in 2020, there were Republicans that were like, nah, man, we can't uncertify this election. Because if you try to uncertify election, you're uncertifying their seats too. So you're trying to untangle the entire election. And do you think that you're going to be able to have enough votes to secure your seat without fucking over your colleagues in the Senate and Congress? Come on now. So there's no way, because if you challenge the certainty of the presidential race, you have to challenge everybody else's race. And you think all these other people want to get caught up in this shit? No. So this plan that he has, it will fail like it failed last time over that simple explanation. And I wish more journalists, okay, people who claim they know politics, can talk more about this, rather than keep scaring people about the logistics. There's no logistics. There's no way. Listen, unless Democrats take over everything, like every fucking thing, like they win the Senate, which they're going to win potentially again, but they take over Congress with large numbers, and they take over state seats all across Pennsylvania and across the country. Like if they do a massive blue wave that takes over everything, I don't think that's going to happen. But if they did that, right, I could see maybe an opportunity for the Republicans. They will be wrong and they'll lose, but I can see a collective Republican interest in trying to challenge the election. However, if the Democrats maintain a pretty modest showing across these red states where, look, Kamala wins the presidency, but they don't win some Senate seats, or they don't win new congressional seats, or whatever the case is, and the Republicans still maintain the House, which is expected potentially, you might see a situation where Republicans say, nah, leave that alone, Trump, you lost, hang it up, because they're not trying to deal with this shit with their races. And I don't think people remember what happened 4 years ago and why Trump could not succeed in any of these cases. He couldn't. He absolutely couldn't. And I say this because I just did the Attorney General candidates forum, which the video from that forum is coming up very soon. Dave Sunny, the Republican who thinks he's going to win, who isn't going to win. Well, I don't think he's going to win. Who knows? He's going against frontrunner Democrat Eugene D. Pasquale. The two of them are going neck and neck. I did a candidates forum. Dave Sunny did not show up, but Eugene D. Pasquale and some of the other candidates showed up. I was talking to them about the election and about election certifications, and some of those responses by the Green Party guy, one of these independents, it was very cringy. Because in one sense, they said they don't think the election was stolen, but quote unquote, I mean, come on, let's be for real. But at the same time, they also was just talking about how they were concerned about the voting process and the way it was, and we need to return to paper ballots, and it was just too much. I was like, paper ballots, child. But it's a lot of rhetoric being hauled around. As far as the aftermath go for me, I'm just in a space where some of the people who make these crazy moral arguments in defense of what's happening, in Palestine and all these other arguments around purity and performance, my question becomes, where's your plan if Trump wins? Okay, I'm waiting, because all this smoke for Kamala is okay. Nobody who is progressive leaning is treating her like she's a goddess. I don't think that's the case. It wasn't the case for Biden. It's not for her. But what we understand about harm reduction is that we know that if she gets elected, that there's a higher chance to hold her accountable and really influence and nudge her on those issues. And I think that's happening throughout her campaign. Trump gets in. What's the plan, y'all? What's the plan? Can't be a suicide mission. Can't be that. I don't know what the plan would be. What's the plan? What's the plan of revolution that you all so badly want? Because Jill Stein not going to do it and she's not going to win. What's the plan? Because, so much uncommitted to Kamala. Okay, cool. So what's the plan? You're not going to vote. You're withholding your vote. You're not going to do it. Okay, so what's the plan? You don't have one. So I'm supposed to put my livelihood in your hands. I'm supposed to put my reasoning. Yeah, fucking no. So for those reasons alone, I'm seeing who's like that on my timeline, on social. I'm seeing how they showing up. And I'm just like, you guys are unserious people. And I can't follow you anymore. I can't listen to you. I can't support you because I recognize that you're in it for attention, that this is a vanity project for you, that you don't have the normal empathy and compassion to recognize the very people that will get hurt by your selfishness. There's a privilege in being able to say that you're withholding your vote. There's a privilege. And some of you all are in cities and areas where you already know what the outcome's going to be. And so you want to sit up here and play. But if you lived in Texas, if you lived in other parts of this country and you had these types of positions, you would be an idiot. And the reality is there are a lot of people who do. And while they do want to challenge, they recognize that if Trump gets elected, ain't no more challenging. And we saw this in 2016 when everybody was all, they don't want to support Hillary. They can't do it, yada, yada, yada. They're voting Green Party, voting Jill Stein, whatever, right? You did all that. And then when Trump got elected, it impeded. And a lot of you all retreated. You did a couple of marches. You did a couple of little rallies. And then after that, after what, January, a lot of you all kind of fizzled out and went back to business per usual, went back to riding in Maybachs and your nice fancy cars, and just went back to business as usual and left the rest of us having to grapple with a lot of our rights being impeded upon. I'm going to make it very plain for you. If Trump gets elected, gay marriage is over. And that's fucking up with my life. My husband and I will not have benefits. We will be reduced to second-class citizenship. And we would basically go back into the closet, not as our beliefs, but who we are as a people. You all will be sending us back the way that you all have set reproductive rights back. And I, for one, believe that if anybody is willing to vote against their own interest to take back women's rights, I know they're going to try to take back gay rights. I know they're going to try to take back gay marriage. And I know there will be no progress to protect anyone, including trans women and trans people as well. There will be no support for them in those communities. There will be no opportunity to really address those issues. So for those reasons alone, I cannot in good faith and good conscience support anyone who is going to vote for Jill Stein or vote for Trump or just not vote at all. If that's the messaging. And my thing is, you're so loud, you're so wrong, you're so dumb, and yet you want to be loud about it. Look, if there's people that's doing that on the low privately, whatever. But the fact that you're going to use platforms to convince and promote people to do it, that's who you are. That's who you are. And you can afford the luxury to do it. Because a lot of people that's doing it are so wonky, so academic-y, so PhD, so, got their own properties and stuff, and they think they're so cool. They're so not. You're so corny. You're so whack. You're so annoying. You're so pretentious. You're so self-righteous, and no one gives a fuck. And then you're same people that want people to support you in other things. Nah, fam, you ain't fam no more. You go ask those people that's going to suppress my rights. Because when I hear people say things like, this election doesn't matter and I don't care, you're telling me that I don't care. And quite frankly, I take that shit personally. Look, she's not perfect. Never has, never will be. No presidential candidate is. But all I know is that there is a difference between Trump and her. And to try to make an equivalency like they're all the same, it's all the same, you're dumb. You are. You're stupid. And you're rude. And you're heartless. And you're such a purist. And the irony is a lot of these people, all these purity tests on people, they don't even have it for themselves. It's so funny that, Dr. Cornel West has so much mouth about moral decisions and all these things. Sir, pay your child support for your kids. Pay your child support for your kids. Pay your child support. Be a father and stop having all these babies out here, putting your seed all out here in the wild, wild west. But you want to talk about universal health care. Talk about universal child support in your household. All these people want to talk about moral this, but y'all the same people that talk about grace. Same people talking about giving people second chances. Same people that talk all this stuff, but talk about you for the people and revolution community. But you're the same person that don't know nothing about harm reduction and don't know nothing about the actual communities that will suffer based on your fucking self-righteousness. Fuck you. That's how I feel. I'm tired. I'm over all of the grandstanding. Some things is just common sense. Some things you just have to get out yourself and do what is best for the collective. And sometimes you're not going to get your way all the time, or you're not going to get the ideal person. But sometimes you got to organize better. You got to plan better. And so every fucking 4 years, if the only option is not voting or Jill Stein, then are you really that committed to community? Why haven't you got serious about putting a better alternative up? But you don't care because you don't really care about politics and you don't care about elections. And you are a very one-trick pony mindset because you don't have the ability to dare to imagine something bigger than yourself. And a lot of you are bringing in your personal trauma and your hurt and your other issues to the table, and you're projecting on other people to do something that, in my quiet sense, you want to be a martyr. And not all of us are giving up on our lives. Not all of us want to die right now for a cause that you don't even have no sense of understanding about. Like cowards. It's cowardice. And people really sit up and watch a couple of Netflix documentaries and a couple of articles and share some shit on Instagram and really think they understand how serious the situation is. This election is serious. And no, none of these people are going to suffer. We know what Trump's going to do. If you really want to talk about it, he said he will finish the job. People want you not to vote and vote for Trump and want you not to vote so that he can win, so that Bibi Netanyahu can just go completely carte blanche on Palestine. He's crazy now, he'll be crazier. Fuck around, and if Trump gets elected, what you gonna do? Bibi Netanyahu is going to completely desolate Palestine. Okay? Jill Stein is not winning. Let it the fuck go. There's not enough money. There's not enough organizing for her. It's not happening. Harris has made it very clear throughout her entire campaign what she's trying to do. Just stop it. There's just no way that you cannot get around this. Some of you all, I believe, want there to be chaos because you think that you're going to be able to have the opportunity to do some complete radical shit. It ain't happening. You're not about that life. If you was about that life, you would have did it in 2016. I don't want to, man, I could go there. All I'm saying is that the things that certain people have done that were radical and extreme did not come from the left. And I'm going to leave it at that. If you look at some of the people who have done some interesting things, they were not liberals, they were not Democrats, they were not progressives. Just saying. So, moving along, I saw the documentary on Investigation Discovery, ID, I think it's called. It is called Chris Brown, A History of Violence. It came out Sunday night on ID, and a lot of people have been talking about on social media this documentary that was produced that talked about Chris Brown's 15-year history of violence. I mean, 2009 was the first major incident involving Chris Brown assaulting Rihanna. And it's been 15 years, and he has consistently have had accusations of rape, accusations of attacking people, physically assaulting people. Like, this has been a reputation he has had. And at a certain point, we as a community have to, I mean, I don't support him. You know, I've been off him for a while. But watching this documentary, I will just say that if you are a victim of sexual assault, abuse, any type of violence, anything, I don't necessarily need to recommend you to watch it. I mean, if you're a survivor, you've been a victim of any type of this type of assault or crime, you most likely don't already support Chris Brown, don't need to know more about him to not support him. I mean, it is what it is, right? However, what I will say is that this documentary, for those who, you know, are not triggered, who can watch it, it was enlightening. It was very enlightening. I mean, they did a really great job of talking about, one, making us remember why Chris Brown was popping, right? His early days, his teen days. I mean, he's one of the few artists in years that was young, that was able to get a #1 on the Billboard charts as a debut. His debut single, Run It, was #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. That something like that does not happen. And he had a career. I mean, he was on the Double Mint, you know, commercial. Made a song, Forever, that became a part of that theme, and we had a viral pop cultural moment with Forever. You know, people on the 30 Rock. I mean, they were reminding us about all of the things. His relationship with Rihanna was epic, you know, and how that was a moment. And then all of a sudden, you know, he attacks her, and I mean, it's abusive, and we're reminded of how that incident took place. Chris Brown was a total asshole, right? And then the crazy part is that for a lot of us some of us who want to stay there in 2009 and think that that was the one bad fumble, no, there was more incidents, more allegations. I mean, Karrueche Tran's restraining order. I mean, his behavior dealing with her, even how he discussed his behavior, was very possessive. You know, he did a video on Instagram, which I remember that video talking about, you know, if I'm in love with you and I want you, nobody can have you. It was very abusive, like abusive talk. And so they talk about that. They talk about allegations where he assaulted people, physically assaulted people, and people had to settle. You know, there was a woman who talked about how he assaulted her in Vegas. But he's been violent towards women over the years. There's been several allegations. He's been violent towards other men. But one thing that people don't know about Trey Songz is that, not Trey Songz, oops, Freudian slip, about Chris Brown, is that he is the second most followed male artist on Instagram, following Justin Bieber. He has over 188 million Instagram followers. Did y'all know that? He is the second most followed solo male artist on Instagram. I am, I was shocked. I was shocked. You know, it's baffling to me. But Chris Brown is the most followed solo artist. Other top people. The number one is Cristiano Ronaldo with 641 million followers. Lionel Messi, he's also a footballer, with 504 million followers. Selena Gomez, 423 million. Kylie Jenner, 396 million. The Rock, 395 million. Ariana Grande, 376 million. Kim Kardashian, 360. Beyonce, 314. Khloe Kardashian, 306. Justin Bieber, 295. He's the most followed solo male artist at 295 million. Kendall Jenner, 291 million. Taylor Swift, 283 million. And then you have Virat Kohli, who's a cricketer. And then Jennifer Lopez, 250 million. Nicki Minaj, 227 million. Then you got Courtney, and you got Miley Cyrus, Katy Perry, Kevin Hart, 178 million. Cardi B, 165. Chris Brown. Okay, so Chris Brown is tied with Drake, 144 million apiece. So Chris Brown and Drake have 144 million. They are they're tied for the second most followed male artist, solo artist. The other one, of course, number one, as you all know, is Justin Bieber. And then Drake and Chris Brown are tied at 144 million apiece. So that's a big deal. This man still has a career after all of that. You know, after all of that, you know, he's an influencer in that kind of way. So yeah, people really follow these folks. You know, Billie Eilish has 120 million people. I'm like, Vin Diesel, interesting enough, has 102 million. Yeah, it's interesting. But these are top celebrities. You know, Beyonce is up there, man. Like, Beyonce is the most followed Black artist on Instagram. Beyonce is. And then following Beyonce is Nicki Minaj. 227 million. Is that something? And then Zendaya has 181 million. But yeah, I digress. Big artist. That has a lot of followers. And that his career has succeeded. And people ask the question, well, who's going to be his, you know, how did he get these followers? How did he get these massive followers? Because the industry was investing in his success. That's why the industry was invested in his success. They needed a Chris Brown to thrive in the industry. They needed to have this man. So he's thrived. He's made his millions, for sure. And so that's why he's been able to have this career for as long as he's had. What do I want to say? Some interesting things is that they did talk a lot about his connections to Diddy, that him and Diddy has had a close relationship throughout his career, and that Diddy has played interesting roles in his career. Like, at one point in time, there was a narrative that he had Rihanna and Chris Brown stay at one of his properties to work on their relationship or something. Then there was a phase in time where that narrative shifted to just being Chris Brown staying with Diddy. But Chris Brown has went to a lot of Diddy parties. He's hung out with him. And I'm not saying and accusing him of anything, but it's just a lot of the abusers typically align themselves. I'm not saying that he has done anything or any of that, but there's been a lot of connections between Chris Brown and Diddy that comes out in this episode. There's also a woman who accuses him of rape, a new victim or a new potential accuser, I would say, a potential victim, but she details explicitly her relationship with Chris Brown and the abuse she experienced. But also, I don't want to tell too much of the documentary, but it talks about why that case did not see the light and some of the nuances about the relationship with Chris Brown, because she experienced the situation. She was still communicating with him in spite of the incident. And there was some text messages and, it was hard for her to take her case to court. But there's been several others who've also accused him, and similar types of dynamics around what she described as something like a date rape drug, where she was with him and then she woke up and she was unconscious and, other things took place. I won't get too graphic, but there's a lot there. And so, look, you might have said Rihanna forgave him in 2009. It's been 15 years. But where there's smoke, there's fire. And I just don't trust him. I don't see it. I don't, in this day and age, I don't see it. And I'm going to leave it at that. Now, one movie I highly recommend to watch that's out and people have been talking about, it's called Conclave, which is about a pope that's passed away. And there is a election where the popes are coming from all over the world to try to elect their next cardinal, their next pope. This film is incredible. Ralph Fiennes is in it. Stanley Tucci is in it. These are Oscar-nominated performances. There's a lot of buzz that Ralph Fiennes, who's been previously nominated 2 times for an Oscar, he was nominated for Best Actor in The English Patient, which is a great film, and Best Supporting Actor for Schindler's List, which I thought he should have won for, to be quite honest. That was an incredible, memorable performance. These are 2 films that won the Academy Award for Best Picture. Schindler's List, which was directed by Steven Spielberg, and then, of course, The English Patient, which was directed by another great director, Peter, I think it is, Pierre something. But another great film that was phenomenal. The English Patient is a classic. A lot of people don't talk about it as much, but it was a great film. It was a romantic, sweeping drama. Like, that's best. Yeah, Anthony Minghella was the director on that, and an incredible film, an incredible production. But Ralph Fiennes was a big buzzing actor in the 90s. Over the years, he's had a career boost a little bit. Like, he was, of course, in The Menu, which I talked about earlier, which was an incredible film. But in Conclave, I think he might finally get his big Oscar moment. I think he might win. I think this is the best actor performance. There are some other great performances. Domingo Coleman in Sing Sing has been getting some buzz. He might get a second consecutive Best Actor nomination after Bayard, that Rustin film, the Rustin film. But I don't know. I mean, this is a tight year, because I also talked about The Brutalist, which I know I was my Gladiator too, but The Brutalist has Adrian Brody coming back. Okay? And that might be another Best Actor performance. And I think it might be the Brutalist might be the front run for Best Picture. So there's a lot of films at play. So I don't want to count my chickens before they hatch. I mean, I still believe Denzel Washington, Best Supporting Actor for Gladiator 2. But Conclave, I can see Stanley Tucci getting an Oscar nomination, even though people are saying Stanley Tucci is playing himself. Hey, there's nothing wrong about that. There's a lot of actors who play themselves in every film, and we love it. Some people say that's Julia Roberts. Some people say that, that's Michael B. Jordan. Shade. Some people say that's Jennifer Lawrence, which I can see that in every film Jennifer Lawrence is in, outside of Winter's Bone, I would add, I feel like she's consistently playing the same person. I don't really see her changing character. It's like the same type of pizzazz. I think Denzel Washington do that, where he adds that Brooklyn spirit in every role he plays, but we like it because he gives his own spin. But Denzel is playing classic Denzel, but with the Greek swagger in gladiator suit. So it's not always a bad thing, y'all. But sometimes I do think there are actors where no matter whatever role they play in, they're always playing like themselves, but they're playing their version. Some people say Meryl Streep does that, but I also would add Meryl Streep do have those types of films. I think Diane Keaton has those types of films. But there are times when Meryl Streep will put on the accent, put on the costumes and wigs and whatever she got to do to convey that character. So I'm always going to be a big fan of that level of depth in her roles. But there are some actors who just, I guess they're like typecasted. Amy Adams has range, even though there are times where I felt like in the beginning of Amy Adams' career, she would always play like the ditzy, whimsical girl, but she has shown range in her acting. Christian Bale, range, baby, range. Him as well. But Ralph Fiennes definitely has shown some range. I'm thinking about Anthony Minghella. I mean, what a great director. He directed Shakespeare in Love as well. He also directed Cold Mountain, which is one of my favorite films by him. Came out in 2003. That was the one where Renee Zellweger won Best Actress. Jude Law was in a very great performance. And Nicole Kidman was just Nicole Kidman, which is not a bad thing either. I would say Nicole Kidman has her moments too, where she plays the same type, right? Like she's always playing that white woman that is like living in a very, like, it's giving rich white woman in distress. And Halle Berry's playing, well, I don't want to say that term, but she plays single mother distress, gotta save her kids. Her kids are missing, somebody's lost, something's going on. Either she loses her mind like she did in Gothica, or she loses her kids like in Losing Isaiah, custody-wise. And then she also had lost her kid missing. She's always trying to find her kids. That is the Halle Berry starter kit for acting. But this is different. This is a special film, and I really, really liked it. As far as music goes, music's been musicking. I'm thinking about, somebody just dropped an album. We'll get to Meg Thee Stallion in a minute. Thoughts about that. But Halsey dropped The Great Impersonator. It's okay. It's not bad. I'll just say that. It's just, a little bit. So this whole theme has been about her talking about how she's inspired by various artists, and she even looks like them and does her hair like them and impersonates them. And there's certain songs that she's done where the whole spin is on her influences in pop. Okay. So Meg Thee Stallion dropped Megan, Volume 2. Here's the thing. Here's the things I'll say. It is better than the first one, okay? And to a certain extent, I think it should just stop there. They really should just stop. This should have been the album. And they could have put Hiss and a couple of other songs, Cobra, on there. But this should have been the album. It's better than the first part of the album, the volume. I mean, clearly, volume 1 is just whatever. This one had a little bit more energy, more bravado, more swagger. But lyrically, I just struggle with her. It's obvious that lyricism is either, the thing about Meg is like when she gives a fuck about lyrics, she really gets fun and creative. But when she doesn't, it's the laziest, most lethargical listening experience. The lyrics become lethargic. And I just find the consistent repetition to just be okay. And there's a lot of skips in the first Megan. Like there's songs that I don't want to hear again. I just want to skip. But it's very obvious that she's more of a performer than she is a lyricist. And that's not a bad thing. I mean, you could say the same about Cardi. Cardi's fun though. I will say Cardi's, it's fun. Meg is fun too, but these are more performing artists than lyricists. I mean, I just feel like the lyrics, like there's only so many times you could talk about, your your man, your low, your vagina. I mean, and listen, men rappers do it too. Like, I'm not sexist. I mean, there are some redundancy with certain rappers. Like, I find J. Cole to be a little redundant sometimes. Drake is definitely redundant. Meek Mill is the king of repetitiveness. Like, this is not just a critique for women rappers. Let me be very clear. A lot of men I don't even listen to or even play because they're into repetition, right? So the repetitive nature of rappers is not just, and the redundancy does not fall just only on Black women rappers. I mean, Knock Knock, who's there? Glorilla, Doechii, two female rappers this cycle that has had the best rap albums of the year, period. Not just female rap albums, but male rap albums out of a lot. Tyler, the Creator, like, I won't talk about it, but Tyler, the Creator, I may or may have not have heard a sneak peek of that album. And he's a unique rapper, but he cares about the craft. He cares about the lyricism. And he's made some bangers. So on to TV. Abbott Elementary was great. This recent episode. I just love this season. I thought that initially the Janine, Greg, Eddie love affair was going to lead to the show getting corny or losing its flavor. Oh no, it has actually made the show give a show more pizzazz, more humor, and it's not all in your face, but you love it. That there's like a little cute love story there. And Eva Coleman, Principal Eva Coleman, phenomenal. I mean, I can't stop talking about her enough. But this season has been great. Each cast member has really gotten to shine in a unique way this season, and we have been reintroduced. And why do we love them individually? I just think everybody's bringing their best. And the janitor, Mr. Johnson, the janitor of the show, he's just, talk about a transformation from season one. He's always been that guy, but I just love that he is getting major supporting actor. He needs to get a nomination next year. I know we love giving, James Tyler Williams love every time. But it would be nice. And also the white gay teacher, he's great too. Why don't we give him a nomination? Because it ain't like we haven't seen it happen at the Emmys with what's that, Ted Lasso or Succession, right? So Jacob Hill, that character played by Chris Fertitti. I mean, great. Tyler James Williams is great, but there's so many great cast members on the show. And I'm thinking about William Stanford Davis, who plays Mr. Johnson on the show. Just more nominations. Like, these guys are killing it, and so I really hope that Abbott gets more and more love as time begins to proceed. Let's talk about Love and Hip Hop. They had the finale. I must say the finale was fire. Very good finale. They did a really good job. There's some great tension, and so much great tension that very, very soon, I don't know how soon, but there will be a Love and Hip Hop Atlanta London. They're going to London to take their cast album to London on a tour, and it's going to be really spicy, and I'm going to watch it. I thought I was getting over it, but this season has really made its mark. And then, of course, coming back to us very, very soon is Love and Hip Hop Miami, which will be premiering, I believe, November 17th, 5th, 7th, 12th, 7th, 19th. I think November 19th or November 18th, 5th, 4th, 11th, 18th, November 18th, I believe, Monday, November 18th. That show will be coming back. So we're excited. Love and Hip Hop Miami got some new drama. Trina's coming back again. Trick Daddy's coming. Every time you think they're not going to come back, they are. Bobby Lights is back. Amara La Negra is back, and she's messing around with a man she has no business. But that's become her theme, messing with other people's men this season. Been very messy. I feel like she's becoming the new Carly Rae of that show. Or Amy, depending on who you talk to. But that show's coming back, which I'm excited about. Let me get y'all right here. Come closer. I don't care about this Beauty in the Black show. Don't ask me about it. I'm not watching it. I don't want to review it. I don't care. Everyone's like, oh, it's Tyler Perry. It's on Amazon Prime or whatever, Netflix or whatever it is on. I don't even know where it's on. They're like, oh, it's been good so far. If you want to watch bad quality TV in the golden era of TV right now that we're experiencing, go on ahead. It will not be me. I will not give Tyler Perry no more of my views. I will not hate watch it with you. I will not celebrate his mediocrity. I don't care. I feel like Tyler Perry shows are just so remedial. Even if you think it's better than his rest, what is Tyler Perry's best? And is Tyler Perry's best even Shonda Rhimes' worst? I mean, or it's just at some point you just have to just call a thing a thing. There's too much good TV to watch. And I'm really not watching TV as much because I'm into these movies. It's Oscar season. But if I am going to take time out of my busy schedule to watch any show or invest, I just need something new or better. Tyler Perry, I'm sorry. I won't give you any more time. I will not give you that. I will not give it to you. Absolutely not. So for those who are asking me, what do I think? Am I going to watch it? I'm not going to watch it. If you like it, then I love it for you, baby. Cute for you, but not me. So I'm just putting my foot down right now on that. But that is everything. I mean, look, we are 1 week away from the election. Everybody's registered to vote. Everybody I know. What I recommend you all do is just take it easy on yourselves. I'm taking it easy. I need this escape to Chicago to get away from all the election madness, okay? I'm going to sink my mouth into a deep dish pizza. I'm going to enjoy a really good Chicago dog. I am going to live, okay? Because at this point, we're all going to vote. Vote early if you're into that. I'm going to vote the day of the election because I choose chaos. But vote. Wear the sticker. Show up strong. Be excited. And be united, okay? Period. And I'm going to enjoy Chicago and enjoy this Usher concert that I'm super excited about. And all these nice restaurants that's coming up. We're going to Vec the Monday night. So I'm super excited about that. Of course, virtue can do no wrong. And of course, y'all know how I feel about Smith. So yeah, I'm excited. Harold's Chicken never misses. Okay. Love it all. And as always, be well and be best. Ernestly Speaking is recorded in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. To stay up to date with the latest on the show, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Mr. Ernest Owens. Use the hashtag Ernestly Speaking to tell me what you thought about this episode, and check out my website at ernestowens.com.